Whoa, is this the new copier?
It sure is, Dennis. They installed it this morning.
Can't believe corporate actually listened to our request.
Yep, I guess Christmas came early this year. This thing rules. It collates, staples pages, no more stapling by hand.
Yeah, Santa should have wrapped it.
What?
The printer. Santa should have wrapped it when he gave it early.
Oh. This is going to make our lives so much easier.
I know, this is so much nicer than the old copier.
Yeah, I know. And Santa and all his elves must have worked so hard on it, and then they gave it to us early?
It's a very nice printer, Tracy. Just make sure no one copies their rear end, eh?
Oh, that naughty old elf must be one mean bastard to give us this so early.
What?
Did I stutter, Megan? Santa Claus.
Okay, it looks like the printer has gotten everyone a little too excited.
Of course it did.
Everyone just go back to work.
TBTL. That's it, the radio. I'll go on the most popular program of the day. I assume that's still Don McNeil and his Breakfast Club?
Can I just say I feel like I'm on MTV right now?
They had been posting their stuff out on the internet, and apparently they'd been met with virtually nothing but ridicule.
This is about respect. This is about personal space. This is about the violation.
Skip to the end.
Got it. Here's the long and short of it. Someone has been touching my karaoke machine.
I stand corrected. This is compelling radio.
All right, hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Monday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
Intimate conversation, self-disclosure, and a little music thrown in too.
My name is Luke Burbank. I am your host.
I know what you guys are thinking. Hey, it's the guy from Twitter. That's what you're thinking right now.
Coming to you from the Nest Broadcast Center, high in the sky above Portland, Oregon, where it's a sunny day. The leaves are changing color. It was cool and crisp this morning.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
Just a gorgeous October day here in the 503. We've arrived at episode 3529 in a collector's series.
Let the fun begin.
I was up in Seattle this weekend at the Vera Project, and afterwards was having a drink with some folks, people that are very in the know about music and things like that. And somebody regaled us with a story from the 1960s about the band The Zombies, who I've been recently getting back into, weirdly enough. And it was just like...
From my point of view, it's a beautiful story. I love your story.
When I heard this story, I knew this is the thing I'm going to be telling people at dinner parties for the next few months. So if you're listening to today's episode, it's as if you're at a dinner party with me, where I'm going to tell you the story of what happened with the band The Zombies in the late 1960s. Speaking of bands... Paul McCartney is now weighing in on what exactly happened to the Beatles.
I was in a band back in the day.
Oh, yeah? What was the band?
The band was back in the day.
Like why they broke up, things like that. Also, should it be literally illegal to spread the ashes of your loved one at a football stadium that they love?
It's literally illegal.
Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to figure out who's doing that at their stadium over the weekend. So we'll get to that. And if we have time, and if you'll allow me, I have a harangue about something email, internet related.
It's called the internet, and it's a fresh new way to check out sites, buy clothing, and surf music.
I've been running into a particular problem involving my emails that we can talk about too. And also we do have an email and VMail segment as well that we will make sure to include. And it wouldn't be the show if you weren't including this guy, the longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. He has just one question on this Monday morning.
Is it too early to get a fish sandwich?
He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now from the Roosevelt neighborhood of Seattle, Washington. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. I need somebody, I don't know if we have anybody in the audience who can explain podcasts to me, but if there's anybody in the audience who can explain how podcasts work, I'm all ears. Let me know. I'm so confused. One of my favorite podcasts, Comedy Bang Bang, has a whole family of podcasts around it on the Earwolf Network. I've been paying Stitcher.
You dress for the podcast you want to host.
Yes, you do. I'm wearing a button-down shirt and jeans right now.
I actually am, by the way.
You're wearing a button-down...
And I had a little suit jacket
too.
on earlier.
Oh, I'm not wearing a suit jacket, but I have jeans on and a button-down shirt. But anyway, I don't know, man. Like, everything just keeps changing. There was Earwolf, and then Earwolf was Stitcher Premium, and then it was Midroll. I don't know all these businesses. All I know is my Stitcher Premium no longer gets me the ad-free family of, Earwolf podcasts. I now think that I have to move over to something called Comedy Bang Bang World or something like that, and I got a note to myself here, I may need to cancel my Stitcher. I don't know. Like, once you're locked in, you know me, I don't, I'm locked in with them. I went through the hassle of entering a relationship, a financial relationship with them. I don't want to have to chase them around.
This is kind of a debate going on Twitter amongst folks that I tend to follow because, of course, this is a podcast. This is what we do for our job, and so I'm friends with a lot of other people that do podcasting for their job or work at various levels of, let's say, Stitcher, let's say, SoundCloud, whatever. A lot of kind of like public radio expats, if you will. And the show Heavyweight. Mm-hmm. I really love the show Heavyweight that Jonathan Goldstein hosts. And I think is it the entire Gimlet roster of shows is now, I think it's maybe a Stitcher Premium product or something.
Okay.
And so I've seen people that either actually work on that show or just kind of know the players. I think generally here's what it comes down to. People who make the shows, the content creators, are generally saying, look, we make the shows and they've got to be paid for somehow. And we all have a lot of subscriptions. And it just kind of is what it is. Like, just like you have a few, if you have cable television, you might pay for HBO and Showtime. I think that's usually from the content creator. That's kind of the pushback. And then from the other side, it's like, gosh, every time you kind of get set up with something, all of a sudden they get acquired, they get swallowed by a larger fish, and now you've got to like set up your system with that larger entity because everything is just constantly changing. I guess you're more in kind of door number 2.
Yeah, I want to be careful about that. In fact, I don't even like the way I ended my little grouse there because I'm not actually mad at Comedy Bang Bang. My guess is this is better for them in the long run. Like if I'm subscribing to something, I'd rather have it be something called Comedy Bang Bang World, which sounds like it's much more directly to Scott Aukerman and his vision than Stitcher Premium, which has served me well as far as getting access to these things, but it just seems more, bigger and faceless. So it's not really a grouse. I'll be honest with you, Luke. I'm just looking at my notes here about things I got to get done today, and I saw that the top thing was cancel Stitcher and sign up for Comedy Bang Bang World. So it was the first thing that came out of my mouth, and I do think it's funny that I'm a podcaster who really does not understand podcasting. When I say it's funny, I don't know if my employers find that as funny as I do, but it is complicated, and it is like, again, for me, it's just like, wait, now, when did this happen? I gotta move over now. So I'm just like, I'm reading like Medium posts and I'm digging into Reddit forums to like make sure, am I doing this right? Am I canceling Stitcher now to follow them somewhere else?
It's interesting you have that as a to-do list item because I have low-key had this to-do list item of go ahead and cancel my Los Angeles Times subscription.
Oh, yeah?
Because I need to subscribe to the Oregonian. I live in Portland right now, and it's much more relevant to my life. And I have been subscribing to the LA Times for many years, and it's great. I love that paper, but I just don't need to. Of the things that I'm going to spend my subscription money on, the LA Times is not in the top 6 right now, And so I can't, for the life of me, I have been to their website and, well, they have, they have pressed my flabbergast button. They have absolutely flabbergasted me. So you go in and it says, I'll tell you the other one. This actually gets into my internet rant for the day, which is basically like survey emails and also emails that are just mailing list emails that I didn't ever remember asking to be on. I'm sure I accidentally, when I wanted some content, clicked yes. Like MLB.com is just the absolute worst offender. Every single day, I tell MLB.com I'm unsubscribing from their thing. And every single day, the next day I get an email from them. And it's this whole manage your account thing. This same thing that's going on with the LA Times. In both cases, in order to stop the delivery of these things, and in the LA Times case, for me to stop paying whatever, $15 a month, I have to log into my account. Neither place thinks I have an account, but they also continue to send me emails. If that makes any sense.
To the email account that they say they don't have on file. I've been in
to the email account that they say they cannot locate is also the place where they're sending me each day. This is actually, I do think this is kind of cool what the LA Times does. They send you basically a scanned version of the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
every
yeah,
single
that's
day.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Which I just kind of like for some reason. It just feels about as close as you can get without actually holding the newspaper. That sort of, it's not quite tactile because it's still on the computer, but I like that anyway. So every day they send the Los Angeles Times to my email account, and they go ahead and take that money out of my account each month. But when I try to go in there and say, no, thank you, I'm going to go ahead and make some changes here, I can't log into anything. Therefore, I can't change it. And it's almost like one of those things where I just never have an hour of my afternoon free for this. This is a low priority to me in one way. So it just continues to go on and on because I don't have the time to untangle it.
Yeah. You know, I think I've said this before, and I understand why. I think I understand partially why this doesn't work in today's economy, and especially the economy around information. But I do wish I could just easily get a day pass to a newspaper's website. Like, let's say that I was visiting, I think San Francisco is the last town I did this in. Like, I'm just visiting San Francisco for a weekend. I love buying the newspaper off of the newsstand or what have you. And I know that this just sounds so old-fashioned, and I almost regret starting this line of questioning. The world is so complicated today. But, like, it would be fun just to buy I guess, San Francisco Chronicle without having to buy a subscription to the San Francisco Chronicle. You know what I mean? The idea of, can I buy your newspaper for a day? Like, here's one article that I want to talk about on TBTL or that I want to read because you sent it to me. It would be nice if I could just pay for that article, or maybe, again, overpay for the article for one day. I guess you get into complications, though, if you were just selling a day pass, but you still have access to every archive. Like, when I go to buy the Chronicle off the newsstand, if they still have newsstands, it doesn't come for my, let's say, $2 or whatever it is these days. It's a banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10? I'm not getting access to everything the Chronicle has ever published in its history, you know? So I understand there are complications.
It seems, though, like from a technical standpoint, there's a way to make that happen. Like that thing the LA Times is sending me, which is just that day's newspaper. It's just scanned in. And I don't know if it has hyperlinks in it or not. I guess I haven't really looked that closely. But I know what you're talking about. Like, it's a very low lift to walk up to a newsstand and to hand the person $1 and to get a copy of the San Francisco Chronicle or the New York Times if you're in New York or whatever. And I'm with you. I love getting the local paper when I'm visiting somewhere, the actual physical copy. And then, so that's just like, that's not a fraught decision because you're like getting your coffee and you're giving them $1 and you got the newspaper. It's a great morning. But the digital side of it is so much more complicated because it's like, I probably, long ago when I subscribed to the LA Times, it was probably because I wanted to read one article, probably for TBTL, and the only way I could do it was to subscribe to the Times because I'd probably used up my freebies, and then years later, here I am, not able to unsubscribe from it. So it is a much more, you're forging a stronger connection with these entities than you would if you just walked up and grabbed a newspaper off the newsstand.
And I understand the other side of things, and I'm taking this really to Boringtown. Like, Ernesttown is next to Borington, and like right between Ernesttown and Borington is where I'm taking this conversation.
Okay.
I'm right on the county line there.
But Snoozeville?
Snoozeville. We don't talk about Snoozeville.
If you hit Boringtown, you've gone too far. It's Snoozeville. It's just before Boringtown.
It's the Tri-Cities. You're familiar. But you know, I think the truth is the economics of keeping a newspaper, any kind of a healthy journalistic enterprise today, is not what it used to be. So the idea of here's, you know, let's even just say $2 for a daily newspaper, like the margins, I don't know if margin is the right word there, but the challenges of newspapers are so much different now as far as financially speaking that they need to do everything they possibly can to get people to subscribe because it's not going to pay their bills if they have this a la carte option. That just must be it. It doesn't make financial sense. It's not that far different than the fact that, you know, you and I, it's a different model because we're not behind a paywall, but we ask people to support TBTL and they so generously do, but we also encourage people when possible to do it on a recurring basis because, you know, that is better for the company not to have to like just hope that somebody's going to re-up the next time and to be able to like kind of have an ongoing relationship. I was just signing up. I'm trying to think. I was just signing up for something today. Oh, you know what it was? It was I was giving my, I don't know, annual or biannual little tiny contribution to Wikipedia. Do you do that when they're doing their fundraising? I can't skip through it. I use Wikipedia all the time. I don't give I'm not super lavish. I just give them, like $10, $20 or something once or twice a year because it seems like I'm getting at least that much out of Wikipedia over the course of a year. And they're
also,
hey,
they make the request bigger and bigger and bigger as their fundraiser goes on until eventually you get one sentence of Nick Offerman's bio and the rest is just Jimmy Wales reminding you that this only exists because of donations.
Yeah, and it is, it's a unique product, so I don't mind it. But anyway, they said, hey, whatever you're giving here, how about you just split that up and we charge you monthly for it? And the monthly fee would have been almost like pennies on the dollar, like almost nothing. But it's just better for us to spread this out and have an ongoing relationship with you. And I was like, nah, I'm just going to do it one time this time. Sorry to admit that. But, it's just that's the model in today's day and age. It is like, I think, way better to get people into like a subscription-based model, no matter what it is.
Well, absolutely. And again, we're only able to sit here and talk into these microphones 5 days a week because of, like you said, all of these wonderful, generous listeners who are mostly using the subscription model to support the show. So it's like we live in that world very much. And also, you mentioned, because on the show sheet I had enough with the surveys, and you said, we are sending out a survey, Simply PM survey. But here's what I would say about that. So I've been going through a couple of sort of slightly complicated processes. One of them is, of course, I'm moving apartments in Portland. I'm moving to a different apartment that's not on top of an ambulance warehouse and also is a much more affordable apartment. And the reason I'm doing that is because I actually bought a little house up in Washington State that I am going to be, I guess, trying to remodel.
Have we talked about any of this on the show? I honestly, did you talk about the apartment?
The apartment.
Move?
People know I'm moving. Nobody knows I bought a house except Kevin O'Brien because I had to call him and get it insured.
Right.
He's if you really want to know the dirt on old LB, you got to reach out to my insurance guy, Kevin. But Kevin also, I think that's a HIPAA violation. Don't tell people anything about me. But anyway, I bought this little house. It's a real fixer-upper. It's kind of maybe like, 30 minutes north of Portland up in Washington State. And I was intrigued by it, and they couldn't sell it. They had dropped the price significantly, which never happens in this day and age. And so I said, I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna kind of take it on as a project and try to get it kind of fixed up a little bit and all of that. So between buying a house and moving apartments, in both cases, you have to do a lot of interacting with digital entities. So getting a mortgage for this other house. Like every day now I get like 3 emails from the bank that gave me the mortgage asking me how I felt about my process of getting the mortgage. Also, the specific mortgage broker who I used at the bank, their account auto sends me, how was Shannon? And then when you're moving apartments, there's some weird thing. Like I had to sign up for a new portal. The new building I'm moving to has a new portal, web portal for me to do all things related to that apartment. And that web portal is constantly hitting me up asking me how my experience of signing up for the web portal was. Plus there's something called My Move, which is where when they know you're moving, you suddenly get bombarded with these digital, offers like, hey, Bed Bath & Beyond wants to give you 20% off on this. There's like 80 things on this. And I didn't even know I was signing up for this My Move thing. I was just literally trying to log into the portal for the new apartment so I could give them the deposit. And I inadvertently got enrolled in something where every day I get like 4 or 5 enticements from things that are related to moving. I had to put my name on the power bill at this other little house that I bought. And now I get survey questions from the local utility district where the house is asking me about my experience of signing up for autopay on the local utility district.
I could be wrong about this too. But I also think that this obsession in whatever you want to call this style of economy we're in these days, where a lot of stuff is app-based, whether you're ordering food, transportation, what have you, and people want you to rate and review, I just get the impression that they're not really looking for feedback to improve, right? It's unclear to me exactly what the game is. I mean, I want to be a little bit careful here.
Well, right, because we also need people to rate and review.
Well, that's true too, and I also want to you and I a while back were doing ads for a company where rating and reviewing was part of it, and I think in one of the ads I kind of mentioned, I'm like, I had pretty good service. I gave them a 4 out of 5 because it wasn't ideal, and I heard back from the advertiser saying, no, please don't encourage people to give anything less than a 5, essentially. Like,
really?
Don't say it specifically, but like, we really want people to give 5s, and that really, really confused me. And that's all I want to say about details on that, because it's a friend of the show. But like, I was really confused about that because I'm like, why, if you're going to have a rating system that goes from 1 to 5, why are you only interested in getting 5s? It seems like there's plenty of gray area between 1 and 5 that can tell you about the experience of somebody, right? And then, of course, I realized later, because the ads can claim that we get more 5 stars than the competitors, or our service providers always get so many 5 stars. I'm like, you're not really looking for feedback. You're not looking to use these tools for improvement. You're using this as some sort of a marketing ploy. That's my understanding. I'm guessing on a lot of that stuff. All I know is they're not, in this particular case, this company was not interested in actually using this as a measuring tool.
What I think these companies that I've been dealing with, and again, there's so many of them and they're so random. The other thing I did that was so stupid was I'm going to be this little house that I bought. I'm going to be trying to remodel it. And I actually had a meeting with an architect. And when I found out what it actually costs to remodel a house in 2021, I was like, I may need to seek some kind of an additional remodeling loan to make this happen.
You should get another job. What are you doing?
Well, that was my first thought. Yeah. And so I was sitting. I had ordered some food from Laughing Planet here in Portland. This is the most Luke thing of all time, Andrew.
That's the most Donovan thing of all time, Laughing Planet.
I am sitting. I've ordered. They have this Thai broccoli bowl. It is quinoa and broccoli. You get it with extra broccoli, and it's got some peanut sauce on there and some tofu. It is like the best lunch you could possibly have, and it's generally pretty healthy. But anyway, I'm waiting for my Thai broccoli bowl, and I have this thought, which was I just had a conversation with the architect, and they were like, this is kind of what our best guess is, what you're talking about doing, what this costs. And I was like, ay caramba. First I said, eat my shorts. And they went, that's unprofessional. I said, you're right. I'm sorry. Ay caramba. And it's like, don't have a cow, man. So then
That's what they said. Yeah, it's perfect.
That was their response. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm just Googling around, like, what are the various financial products that are available when you want to do a remodel? Because you want to blow right past Snoozeville and honestly, right through Boringtown into Overshare. What would we call it? Like, what would another town be? Overshare City.
Overshare Bluff. Yeah.
Let's go to Overshare Bluff. So basically, the deal when you're borrowing money to buy a house, obviously the bank sends out an appraiser, and they say the bank is worth, or the house is worth, whatever, X number of thousands of dollars, and then they're going to loan you some of that money, but they don't want to loan you like more money than the house is worth, because then they're worried that you're not going to actually pay them back, and they don't have an asset they can come repossess. So even though this house I bought was not a particularly expensive house by today's standards, because it needs a lot of work and stuff like that, and I could have borrowed more money if I wanted to. If the house was like, I could have bought a house that was maybe twice as expensive as this house if I would have just gone out and found that house. So I thought, well, I've got plenty of borrowing power. Well, no, I don't, because the house is worth what it's worth. And so they're not going to give me, they don't want to, like, I called my bank back up and I was like, hey, funny story, I want to borrow a little bit more money.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does the bank ever like it when you call them and you say,
it was Shannon,
hey,
the very Shannon who is sending me, the very Shannon whose account is auto-sending me, how did I do?
Hey, funny story, bank.
It was literally what I said. Hey, Shannon, funny story. Because I had been talking to this person like 8 times a day for the last 3 weeks, because there's just so much detail around getting a mortgage and buying a house. So I called up. I said, hey, funny story. I think I want to borrow a little bit more money. And I said, you had told me my borrowing power was X, and I very, very I came in well below that, so I assume this shouldn't be a problem. He said, well, you don't really understand how this works, Luke. Like, we can't just loan you, even though you could have gotten borrowed more money per month for a mortgage. We can't just give you that different amount to do whatever you want to the house, because the house is not worth enough.
Yeah,
where we feel like that's a good financial decision. So anyway, I'm sitting waiting for my Thai broccoli bowl at Laughing, which 100% I'm having that for lunch today. It's just not even, now that I've mentioned it 4 times, my brain is on a mission to eat that delicious lunch. So I'm sitting there and I'm Googling around, what are the various ways that you can get, borrow for a remodel. And I don't even know how I did this, but I click on it's like Lending Tree or something. Have we done Lending Tree ads?
I don't think so.
Not anymore. Not after this. I click on Lending Tree, and this is on my phone as I'm waiting for food, right? This is just this is not how you do this. But it's like, why don't you figure out what your borrowing power is? And I'm just putting a little bit of information, not like my social or anything, but just like my phone number, which was, I don't know why I even agreed to do that. I put in a couple of little pieces of information, and then I literally just thought I was filling out some very cursory thing where they would then say, here are some places that you can call that do this kind of service. Like, you want to borrow X amount of money, these are some places that will loan you that money, and these are going to be the interest rates, so you know what you're dealing with. I literally just hit okay on something. Again, I'm not putting in financial information, I'm not putting in my income or my W-2s or my social. It's very cursory, but they did get my cell phone number. And I'm telling you, Andrew, I literally hit okay, and my phone starts ringing. And it is a number that I do not know where it is from, and it is one of these lenders. It's not even the lender. It's somebody working in some boiler room somewhere who's sitting at a computer, and when some schmuck like me hits okay on this wrong screen, this company has then given they've sold a lead to this company. So now this person from this boiler room has got their lead. They got a hot lead. This guy is sitting at a Laughing Planet in Portland and is interested in maybe trying to borrow some money to do a remodel on his house. And from that moment until only a couple days ago, my phone was ringing once every hour at a minimum from one of these places. And they're all different. They've all got my number now.
Yeah.
And then some of them got my email, and they're emailing me. Yeah. And they're asking me, what did we do wrong? And Rocket Mortgage is beside themselves that they're not getting that loop. They haven't closed the Burbank account. They haven't locked it in yet. So, anyway,
I'm having phone herpes. I think you coined that. I'm not sure.
I don't think I did, but that's genius.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I sent an unprotected sext.
Yeah.
I engaged in unprotected text, and now my phone has phone herpes.
And you knew better. You were in the moment. You were mortgage horny is what happened here. I'm sorry this is turning so blue.
Yeah,
but you know better than this. But then you're in this moment, and you're just it's probably fine. And you give
I
them
thought
your
what was
number.
going to happen was this initial website I was on, which was a real website. It wasn't some super fly-by-night. Lending Tree, people have heard of it. It's a thing. And what I was under the impression I was going to get was a list of possible financial products that I could choose to interact with or not. But no, what I was doing was I was the list. I was being put on the list that now a bunch of people in far-flung places have got this phone number that has potential money in it for them. And so all of their robots are calling it. And then all of the emails are trying to figure out why it is that I'm not interested in, emailing them back. By the way, I've made no moves on this whole thing. This was literally a passing fancy waiting for my Thai broccoli bowl. So yeah, my phone is in bad shape right now because of all of this.
Should I cut that out? Was that too blue? My second follow-up. Now I'm in my head about that. That seems inappropriate.
What, mortgage horny?
Yeah. Well, now I guess we're leaving it in.
No, I thought that was good.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure.
Believe
we
me.
have children who are listening to this show.
I have family members that are listening.
I know.
Listen,
right.
Mortgage Horny is better than Snoozeville. We got to drive that engagement.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
exactly.
I'll wrap this up by saying this. The issue is, I do think, the person who helped me get the mortgage from the bank, I do think that probably she or her, whoever it is at the bank, whatever, I think they do want feedback. I think they do want to try to do a good job, and they want to find out if there's a consistent piece of feedback. I didn't enjoy the process for this reason. I start seeing that from a lot of people. But I also just think it's one of those things where they don't think there's any downside to this. This is just a program. This is like a setting in the software of how this all works, so that as soon as the loan is done, it auto-generates a how did I do email. And the problem is every single person at every level of all of these things I've been interacting with, the web portal for my new apartment building, everyone was at some point faced with the decision, hey, do you want to send a follow-up email or not? And everyone said yes, because why wouldn't you? It's no skin off your back. You don't even write it. It's auto-generated. But if it might give you some useful information about how to do a better job, or if it might drive some hashtag engagement, there's no downside to any of the individuals that they can see. But when you are a person in the world and you go through the process of moving and also buying a little house, etc., the number of these "how did I do" emails that get generated is truly staggering. Putting aside if you stupidly put your phone number into some kind of a Glenn Ross scam while waiting for food from Laughing Planet.
Yeah, yep, that sounds... I want the good leads, Luke. I want the good leads.
They just like talking to salesmen.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I feel like there was a period where I watched it like quite a bit, right? Maybe everybody goes through that phase where you discover that movie, then you can't get enough of it. It's a dark film, though, Glenn.
It is dark.
Man,
it's dark, and I also wonder how much of it, I don't know if it's, if it's problematic or not. Like, I know they use an extremely disparaging term for when they're going to go get Chinese food.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
The way they refer to that restaurant is just completely and totally racist. I know that, I think there might be some question around the Patel leads. Patel is typically a South Asian last name.
Oh, I didn't even.
But I don't know if the Patels are being singled out on the story because of being South Asian, or if it's just there's the Nussbaums, I think. I think that maybe the Patels are the one that just like talking to salespeople. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't remember the details of that. Yeah. And also, that's Mamet, right? Like Mamet.
That is Mamet.
Yeah, kind of a different generation.
Yeah. I will say that movie is the movie version of it. I never saw the stage play, but the movie version of it is when you're like, a certain age, that movie can really kind of dazzle you. It's writing and of course all the Alec Baldwin scene chewing, as well as Pacino playing Ricky Roma.
Yes.
And then of course Shel Levine. You got Jack Lemmon as Shel the Machine Levine. that's just the saddest. That's one of the saddest characters I can think of in a film.
Yes, I know. And you know what the funny thing is? All of this kind of because we're definitely, this opening segment on this Monday. It's hard to argue that we're not kind of a couple of old men yelling at clouds a little bit here. Not with all of this, but certainly it started with me complaining about not knowing how podcasts work, and I realized, you know what I did there, Luke? I opened my mouth without knowing the shot. And that's one thing that movie taught me.
You never open your mouth unless you know the shot.
Oh, well.
That's also, the Gil character in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Is very Shel Levine. No, it's Shel Levine, which always just... there's something very sort of there's some sort of alchemy that goes on when The Simpsons have Gil living in a hot air balloon that's a promotion for the used car lot he's at. And Homer and Marge, for some reason, are naked, so they sneak into the hot air balloon to get away, and they throw his hot plate out, and he says, I was almost done paying that off. There's just something where there's this comedy that is snatched from the jaws of just bleakness in the Glenn Ross version.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, after saying all of that, we would love you to take part in the APM survey we'll be sending out later. And
by the way, I don't think we'll
thank our donors of the day.
Just for the record, I do think that's one thing that there's a differential factor here. I don't think that we're sending anything out. We're going to be running some promos and stuff next week. If you want to partake in the survey, that will tell you how to do it. But I don't think we're going to be getting up on your emails. Let me know if we do.
But the thing too, okay, we were so close to being done, and now we're not done, is I actually do think there's kind of a fundamental difference. Like, the people that listen to this show who are hearing our voices right now and who are donating and who are this is a 5-day-a-week thing for them, I think an email from TBTL or from APM just saying, how do we make these shows better, I think that's actually much more relevant than me getting an email from the web portal of my new apartment building asking me how the process of signing up for the web portal was.
That is almost like a made-up joke.
Right? It's I don't even want to sign up for the portal, let alone take time out of my life to tell the portal how it's doing. Don't praise the portal. Is that a show title?
Maybe. I'll write it down.
Don't praise the portal?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's a lot of P's, dude. All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do some top stories, etc. here on TBTL. Stay with us.
Support for TBTL today comes from Earnest. who wants to help you break free of the student debt cycle. Earnest can help you by refinancing your student loan. Earnest offers low-rate student loan refinancing, and you can check your rate risk-free in just a matter of 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes. With Earnest, you get radically flexible payments, and you can pick your own loan term. By refinancing, you can reduce your loan term, save money, or combine multiple loans into a simple monthly payment. And if you got questions, you can talk to a real live human being at Earnest for help. Isn't it time you stopped feeling overwhelmed by student debt? Earnest is offering listeners a $100 cash bonus. Refinance your student loan debt at earnest.com/TBTL. Terms and conditions apply. Once again, you get $100 cash bonus when you visit earnest.com/TBTL to refinance your student loan. Not available in all states. Visit earnest.com/TBTL for more details. Terms and conditions apply. Earnest student loan refinancing made by Earnest Operations, LLC, NMLS number 1204917, California Financing Law License number 6054788. 535 Mission Street, San Francisco, California, 94105. Visit earnest.com/licenses for a full list of licenses.
When we record these ads for the show, we usually get a kind of a script. It's usually bullet points, and it just gives us some jumping off topics, you know. So it says, the host could, in this case, discuss their worst poop experience and how Tushy could have helped. Well, I don't know if I've told many stories about having a bad number 2 experience on the show, but one comes to mind. Situation when I was a tween at the Kingdome in Seattle in a Mariners game in a real debacle. I would have given anything to get a Tushy modern bidet in that stall in the Kingdome that I ended up in, trying to pick up the pieces of my broken life. Alas, I did not have access to a Tushy modern bidet, but you do. You know, Tushy, of course, washes your backside with water, which is a way better way to get clean than toilet paper. Also, it's environmentally friendly. It reduces toilet paper use by something like 80%, they've found, which saves you all kinds of money, and, of course, is good for the environment. Plus, they've got the new Tushy brush. It's the only toilet brush with disposable scrubbing pads, so you can use a clean brush every time. These are part of their little accoutrements for when you're in the bathroom and you're doing that thing. So definitely, right now, do not sleep on this deal. To start washing with a Tushy bidet for a better clean, you go to hellotushy.com/TBTL. You get 10% off plus free shipping. It is a special offer for TBTL listeners because they've had to listen to my number 2 stories for far too long on this show. You go to hellotushy.com/TBTL for 10% off. And then after you buy and install your Tushy bidet, you can show it off by tagging them at hellotushy on Instagram. Happy pooping!
Thank you, baby.
All right, let's thank some donors of the day. These are the people who are donating money every month so that TBTL can happen. Or they don't know how to unsubscribe. But however it's working because here we are. And we're thanking Suzanne Olson.
You got a big guffaw out of me, but I hadn't unmuted my mic. I just want that on the record.
Thank you for clarifying. Suzanne Olson is in Renton, Washington. Thank you very much, Suzanne, for supporting TBTL. And then you got Eric Miles in Nipomo, California. I bet you I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah, I was going to ask that city name doesn't seem familiar to me. Has that come up before? And you certainly haven't been there. Usually you'd have a story.
I'm Googling it, trying to figure out where exactly it is. It's, you know what? It's an unincorporated town and census-designated place in San Luis Obispo County, California. So You know what? I think I was there because I was just in SLO a few weeks ago. I went to this restaurant called you would love the name of it. It's called the Bear and the Raven or something. Mm-hmm. One of your favorites. But it's like a pizza place down there in SLO. Oh my gosh. If you're in San Luis Obispo, go to this place, the Raven and the Bear or something, the Bear and the Raven, and get the coal roasted carrots. It was delicious. But anyway, I have been probably but I still know how to say the name of the town, but I guess I've been near where Eric is in Nipomo.
And you're, just for the record, you're not a carrots guy, right? I think I've asked you about this.
I am not generally a carrots guy. That's why it stood out to me. You know what it had on it was this some kind of a glaze that had like it was sort of maybe a rice vinegar glaze on it. So it was just the glaze on these carrots was so delicious that it just made the whole dish. I took a picture of it and I sent it to Becca and I said, "Can you try to because she can cook like anything. It's like, could you try to go molecular gastronomy on this and figure out what the elements of this might be so we can have this because it was so good."
The Bear and the Wren, by the way.
The Bear and the Wren, thank you. David Webster is in Dunwoody, Georgia.
Sounds like a Georgian town, Dunwoody.
It does, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I think I've been through there as well. I've spent a fair amount of time down in Georgia. I've probably been through Dunwoody. David, thank you for the support. Kyle Clark is in Berkeley, California. Certainly been there. Kyle, thank you very much for making TBTL possible. Tracy Van Epps is in Chicago, Illinois. The Windy City, where Tracy is making the donation. Thank you, Tracy. And then Christopher Lemon is in Bozeman, Montana.
Coincidence? Lemon? We're just talking about Jack Lemmon? Probably.
Oh, yes, Christopher Lemon. I think Jack Lemmon might have spelled this with 2 M's, but that's close enough.
Yeah.
That's close enough.
And
Thank you, Christopher, as well. Thanks to all of our donors of the day. We would not be able to be sitting here doing this show without you. So thanks for supporting TBTL.
Emotion. Thank you, baby.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
I was out having a drink after being at the Vera Project on Saturday, and I was hanging out with a bunch of it was the founders of the Vera Project and then just some other folks that are kind of ancillary to the Seattle music scene, and it was really fun. Also, my buddy John, our buddy, I guess you could say, John was there, who was producing the piece. Just one of those perfect nights where we're all just sitting around. I did eat too many cocktail onions, though, because they ran out of olives. I was having a martini, and they said, we can throw some cocktail onions in. And the first couple of them I had, they were so good, Andrew, because they're just salty and oniony. And I was like, what have I been doing with my life that I have not been having onions instead of olives in a martini? And then after I had a couple martinis and ate a lot of cocktail onions, and then I woke up Sunday morning, and I think I said on Twitter, can I please speak to whoever let me eat 36 cocktail onions last night? Because it was too many.
Was it a breath thing? Was it a...
It was heartburn, Andrew, because I tell all my 45-year-old guys, you have to limit your cocktail onion intake.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were sitting around talking, and my friend Kate was there, who her name is Kate Jackson, and she used to be at Sub Pop, and now she runs a music publicity company called Grandstand Media in L.A. And we were sitting around talking, and somehow the subject of the zombies came up because I've been been really getting into the zombies. I like to really try to stay on the cutting edge of music, and I've been just particularly obsessed with this album, this song rather, This Will Be Our Year. I made this my music for your weekend a while ago. I listen to the song 4 times a day now.
Of your loves like the warmth from the sun, and this will be our year, took a long time to come. Don't let go of my hand now, the darkness has gone. This will be our year, took a long time to come.
So this is off of this album, Odyssey and Oracle, right? That the Zombies put out. And you know way more about this world than I do, Andrew, because you're, I think, you're a Donovan head, and also I think you just know more about this era of music than I do.
Yeah, but I don't know much about the Zombies. I know they have that song that I think you specifically dislike, right? Time of the Season.
I actively dislike Time of the Season.
I like it, but I understand it's almost like 2 songs in one. It takes kind of a major mood change. But anyway, did you have a follow-up? Because I really don't know much about the Zombies, honestly. I always kind of like this. It's like, in every Vietnam movie in the 80s.
Right.
It's the time of the season.
Then it almost kind of goes into the Mamas and the Papas or something when it gets all kind of harmony on it or something. I think I never liked the What's Your Name, Who's Your Daddy, Is He Rich Like Me? That just felt like gobbledygook to me. But anyway, so that song is on this album too. It's interesting. This album, Odyssey and Oracle, Odyssey is misspelled. They released this album in the UK, and somebody, because it's kind of real, it's like a very psychedelic looking album cover. They literally misspelled Odyssey on the album cover, but they were just like, whatever. People just think it's a psychedelic thing.
Mhm.
People will just go with it. Like, that was how things were going in 1968, apparently. So the Zombies record this album, and they put it out in the UK, and it flops. It is just an absolute flop. It goes nowhere. In fact, it is so poorly received that the band breaks up, and they all just return to having normal jobs.
Do you know where this is in their career? Did I miss that part? Is this an early album for them?
This was, I think, their first album.
Okay.
One of their first albums. And this is an album that has now become really legendary and has had a number of hits off of it. But at the time when it was released, there was just it just didn't catch on in the UK. And so the band literally breaks up. And they're not even trying to like really promote the album in the US. I guess they just figured this is a lost cause. So the Zombies are all just like living their life in the UK, doing whatever it is. Now, and some record company in the US decides, we'll just put this thing out. We've got it. We've got the rights to it. So they put Odyssey and Oracle out, and Time of the Season becomes like the number 3 song in America. And the crazy part is nobody tells the Zombies.
Somebody should have told the Zombies.
This is at a time in the late 1960s where this can actually happen. People don't actually, like, we don't have the internet. You just don't really, you're a zombie and you just like recorded this album and it failed, and then the band broke up and you go back to your day job, or maybe you're playing in a different band. It's possible you just wouldn't know that the song is doing well in the U.S. because apparently nobody told the Zombies. But guess what? This shady company in Michigan called Delta Productions, they had a whole series of basically scams going, but one of them was that they were alleging, after Time of the Season blows up, they were alleging that they somehow owned the rights to the Zombies' music, which I don't know if that was ever proved. I think it was probably one of those things where they were being very creative with saying that they were the ones allowed to release this. But because the song Time of the Season is such a huge hit and this album is blowing up and the Zombies are broken up, 2 different fake Zombies bands get formed in the U.S. These are just people who have been put together by this Delta Productions company in Holland, Michigan, to go out and tour America as the Zombies, even though they look nothing like the Zombies and are not, in fact, the Zombies. One of those bands of fake Zombies was comprised of 2 of the guys from ZZ Top.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, right? Who, to this day, refuse to talk about their time in the fake Zombies.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that nuts? There's a great piece from BuzzFeed by Daniel Ralston, The True Story of the Fake Zombies, the Strangest Con in Rock History.
And this is something that somebody just told you about over drinks, and so then you looked up the story?
Yeah, my friend Kate told me about it on Saturday night, and my mind exploded. And then yesterday, I actually just was like, well, let me figure out what's really going on with this. I mean, I believed her, but I just wanted to know, is this something that they're talking about? And, they are. Daniel Ralston was writing about it for BuzzFeed. This story is actually from a few years ago. He basically was able to find, like, one guy who was in the fake Zombies who is totally happy to talk about it and is, like, thinks it's kind of funny and didn't realize that it was doing anything sort of shady because he was told by the record company, the Zombies broke up, we own the rights, so we just want you to go play Zombies songs. So he, like, uses his real name in the thing. If you see the guys from ZZ Top, they're using fake names. This reporter talks about, he goes, he's got this picture of the quote unquote Zombies, right, which is the ZZ Top version of the Zombies. I inform White that the 2 young men, he's got this picture of basically this Texas version of the Zombies. It's got the guys from ZZ Top in it. He's showing it to an actual member of the Zombies because at some point they did figure this out years later. So the original Zombies, the actual Zombies, or whichever ones of them are still alive, are still sort of playing, and they're trying to capitalize off of this. So this reporter goes up and shows this dude a picture of the Zombies from Texas. I inform White that the 2 young men wearing cowboy hats are Dusty Hill and Frank Beard from the legendary Texas blues rock band ZZ Top, although the names D. Cruz and Chris Page are scrawled over them. The real Zombies would have never worn cowboy hats. So you had this whole period of time where and then now word is kind of starting to spread. There are a few people who have at least enough awareness of the zombies, again, minus the internet or all that, or without the internet, that they're getting kind of suspicious. There's a piece in Rolling Stone in 1969 talking about something that happened at the Whiskey A Go-Go in L.A. As this guy White, who's really in the zombies, he was part of the real band, as he remembers it, friends of the original zombie member Paul Atkinson went to this gig at the Whiskey A Go-Go and managed to get the imposters on tape. He had someone go along with a tape recorder as a journalist. They had a guitar player calling himself Hugh Grundy. They asked him why he was now out in front as the lead singer, and he said, in a bad Northern England accent, "Well, the boys wanted me out in front, and I'm the only original member." Then the interviewer said, "Didn't you used to be 5'10"? This guy was 5'6". So it was like, people are starting to catch on and be like, what is happening that these people look nothing like and sound nothing like, this band that we've got the album of now. And so, I mean, eventually, over time, word did get out. And I think that the sort of reconstituted real zombies have, they've been playing and they've been making a living off of this. But there was this weird window of time where they didn't know they were famous in the U.S. and ZZ Top was going around pretending to be the zombies.
Oh, my
and that
God.
is my new favorite weird rock story.
And the fact that it was ZZ Top blows my mind.
I know, that's the kicker. That's the kicker. It's not just like there was a couple of these fake bands and they were like fibbing to people. It's that it was also the guys who became ZZ Top and that they don't want to talk about it now.
Well, can I tell you a musical story that I completely stumbled upon myself after the show a couple of weeks ago? And I think I emailed this to you, and it's fine. Like, after the show, I was like, hey, maybe this is worth a follow-up. This was just me kind of poking around on Wikipedia, which, of course, now you know I donate to, so I'm allowed to click around on it. But all right, let me start from the beginning. This story isn't as good as yours, but maybe because I was just like, I just kept pulling in the string. I'm like, what are you talking about? So, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Trinidad and Trinidadian musicians, and we came across somebody named Lord Invader, right? And we didn't really know who that was, but we saw that this musician who went by the name Lord Invader had a song called Rum and Coca-Cola. And I was like, that makes so much sense, because I always knew that song, as most people do, I think, is an Andrews Sisters song. And I listened to it like I had this, like a lot of kids in the 90s, I had a swing CD in the 90s. I used to love driving my dad's car around and listening to this swing CD because he had a good sound system in it. And here, let me just play a little bit of Rum and Coca-Cola. I think most people have probably heard this. And I always thought, oh, that's probably a music for your weekend from last week. Let's try this one instead. Sorry. And one thing I mentioned to you during the show was,
Go down Point Kumana, both mother and daughter, working for the Yankee dollar.
Still love this song, but as I got older, I'm like, they're kind of doing, I don't know if patois is the right word there, but they're kind of like, it seemed a little cultural appropriation-y. And
meanwhile, I thought the Andrews Sisters were black.
Oh, that's right. That came up on the show,
which I was
too.
quite wrong about.
And so I had never given that song, I mean, I had given that song a lot of thought. I loved that song, like in high school. And then just in the back of my head as an adult, I'm like, oh, yeah, what is going on with that song? And why are they putting on that accent? Well, you and I discover, kind of on the fly as we're closing out the show, that song was originally by somebody named Lord Invader. But, and this is back in the 1940s, of course. And it turns out that song was literally stolen from Lord Invader and brought to the United States and copyrighted by other people and credited to other people. I actually got, we were talking about Elvis a couple of weeks ago. I got a kind of disjointed voicemail from somebody who kept saying, like, you can't steal music. It's impossible to steal music. This is literally how this song was stolen. And wait till I tell you who stole it. So apparently,
God, if ZZ Top was involved.
That would be amazing. Lord Invader, and I think the Lord Invader and maybe some musical collaborator write this song, and it's a #1 song in Trinidad right at the same time as somebody named Maury Amsterdam is visiting Trinidad on a USO tour. Maury comes back to the States, brings the song with him, credits credits it to, I think, a couple of collaborators he has. I'm kind of giving the broad strokes here, not bringing up everybody's name because I don't recall, but essentially copyrights it for himself and credits these other musicians, and then the Andrews Sisters record it, and a lot of money is made off of this. Do you remember the name Maury Amsterdam by any chance?
No.
He played Buddy on the Dick Van Dyke Show. And
What?
Maury Amsterdam! Yes!
Wow. I'm Googling him to remind myself of what he looks like.
He was like one of the writers. Remember the Dick Van Dyke Show was
Yes.
a TV show about a TV
Right.
show, which was kind of ahead of its time. I think it's a brilliant show. And
Oh, yeah, sure, this
Buddy,
guy.
it was Buddy, and then there was a female writer, and they had like a really good back and forth. They were my favorite part of that show. In fact, I think she was. I can't recall her name right now, but they would always be zinging each other, like kind of in their little writer's room or in their writer's banter. That Maury Amsterdam is the guy, and he still claims, or I don't know if he's still around. I assume he is not. But he claimed that he had not heard that song before.
Oh my
It just
God.
happened to be the song that was the #1 song in Trinidad. But then
While he was
in
there.
this era, while he was there in a USO tour. But like in this era, you could just do that. It was just what I
Right.
mean. It wasn't global. You could just
Yes.
say, "Hey, I'm bringing this song back to the States and credit it to somebody else." I said,
Well, you know
credit
what's
it
weird? In
correctly.
a certain way, we've gone back to a version of that now. Not so much with probably a song because it'd be more provable, but with just like the objective facts of the world. Like there was a period of time where it was hard to know the objective facts of the world because the information was so diffuse. Like you had the people in Trinidad who had heard the song, but then you had a bunch of people in America who had never heard the version from Trinidad. They'd only heard the Maury Amsterdam one by way of the Andrews Sisters. And so to them it was all just kind of like, I don't know. Who are you going to believe? Well, I like this song. Who knows? Now we have all of the ways to track everything. We can know exactly what's happened at any millisecond of time, but we have a lot of people who just like to choose not to believe the shared reality of our planet.
Yes,
So it's like
exactly.
we're
right.
almost like in a weird way. Now there's well, I don't know. It could be a deep fake. I don't know. It's the mainstream media. It's like no, we can know stuff now. We can know that someone stole a song from someone in Trinidad, but there's just still people that maybe not so much about music, but about other things, just are like, no, I'm not interested in actually knowing that. So I'm going to continue to, just believe absolute falsehoods if they're coming from the mouth of, say, Donald J. Trump.
You know what is funny as I'm scrolling through this Wikipedia article is it actually quotes the liner notes of the actual CD compilation that I used to listen to this
Oh,
on.
my God.
And I think I still have that in a drawer somewhere. It was called Songs That Won the War, Volume 8, Swing Again, Yes Indeed.
Wow. Songs that
That's
won
when I
the
used to drive
war.
around in my dad's, was it a Buick or
What?
an Oldsmobile? And I would like drive around in his sleek black luxury car and just blast the shit out of that CD.
What was I'm trying to see what other songs were on there.
That's what I'm trying to look it up now. I mean, I know that once I see it, I will remember them. It looks like you're using an ad blocker. Sorry, buddy. I was just doing that for a YouTube thing. Let's see here. What is the, if I hit play on this, will it just start playing?
Is it possible it's from the Demon Music Group?
Oh, that sounds darker than I would have guessed.
Sure does. No, I think this is the British version, by the way. We Are at War by Neville Chamberlain. Well, that's not a song so much as Neville Chamberlain talking. The White Cliffs of Dover by Vera Lynn.
Oh, that's different.
Always carry your gas mask. Radio announcement. I did what I could with my gas mask by George Formby. This is a British CD called Songs That Won the War, but man, is it a weird list of things. Oh,
yeah, that
In the Mood.
What
Is
you're
this In the Mood or In the Groove?
In the Mood is what kicked it off, and this, of course, was just huge. Glenn Miller there, and that's what kicked it off. And then what I'm doing is I'm looking at a playlist on this and then bopping back and forth between. So I'll pick something off of this to maybe hit that jive jack we can go out with or something.
I'm going to be listening to Glenn Miller while I eat a
broccoli bowl.
Thai broccoli bowl today.
Yeah.
'Cause Now I got this. Yeah, this stuff. I was very big into swing music and all that swing stuff when I was partly in high school because when you grow up in like a Christian school, it's like swing dancing is considered good, clean fun. Mm-hmm. And then there was also that movie Swing Kids.
Yeah,
that was like about like swing kids defeating the Nazis or something. And then you had Swingers, which I guess you could say regretfully made quite the impression on like a 21-year-old Luke Burbank.
And I also think, though, there's a regional bias towards swing in the Pacific Northwest that I knew nothing about until I got here. Similar to tater tots. Like, obviously we grew up eating tater tots, but it wasn't until I moved here that, every, like, kind of pub has tater tots on the menu, whereas in Cleveland it's, usually just more like French fries or various kinds of French fries. But then and I know partially this is, like, kind of, biased by the people I fell in with, because my first friends here in Seattle happened to be people pretty involved in the swing dancing scene and community, and they would tour around for their contests or whatever. But there just seemed like so many more opportunities to engage in swing dancing here, even in 2009, 2010 when I got here. And of course, KOW had the swing years for a long time. Me too. It's such a tragedy that's gone. That could have kept going in so many ways. But I just feel like when I came here, I was like, swing just seems still way more alive here in the Pacific Northwest than anywhere else.
Yeah, I think you get one of those things where you have a lot of people that are into swing dancing, and so the scene is vibrant, and so then there's just more of it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You used to be able to go swing dancing like 7 nights a week in Seattle. You could go to the Century Ballroom. You could go to the Phoenix Underground. That's where I actually met my first wife, was swing dancing at the Phoenix Underground. Like, there was just all these different places you could, and you see all the same people, and you'd show up at these little swing dances, and boy, was that a fun time. Speaking of music, Paul McCartney has a new documentary that's coming out, or there's a new big interview with him, I think, that's going to be on the BBC, and they're sort of previewing it. And one of the things, I guess, he says is that John Lennon broke up the Beatles. He says, "I did not instigate the split. That was our Johnny," he told interviewer John Wilson. "I am not the person who instigated the split." John walked into a room one day and said, "I am leaving the Beatles." And he said, "It's quite thrilling. It's rather like a divorce." And then we were left to pick up the pieces. So I guess part of the confusion is that Paul McCartney had put out some kind of press release around the same time, back in when the Beatles were breaking up, that said he was taking a break. So I think some people assumed that Paul McCartney was the reason the Beatles had broken up, but he now claims, for the record, John Lennon, he says, "This was my band, my job, my life. I wanted it to continue. I thought we were doing some pretty good stuff." The point of it really was that John was making a new life with Yoko that he wanted. He wanted to lie in bed for a week in Amsterdam for peace. You couldn't argue with that. It was the most difficult period of my life. So yeah. John Lennon is not around to litigate this. This is just Paul McCartney's memory of things. But I guess according to him, it was John Lennon.
Yeah. A lot of people thought that Paul McCartney might be responsible because he sued the Beatles.
Okay, but he addresses that.
I know. I read this.
Okay.
I was doing that for effect. In fact, like, he did sue the Beatles, he claims, because the Beatles were kind of getting in bed with this promoter, this manager whose name I don't recall.
Yeah,
but
Alan Klein.
Really was a sleazeball, I think. And so I'm not even. I mean, I said that lawsuit thing for effect. But I feel like this is the type of article you put in a show sheet because it's a Monday and you're worried I'm going to be low energy and you just want to get me riled up about something, and that's fair. That's fine. That's fair.
That was not my process, but I'm glad to know what to do when it's a Monday and I'm worried you're going to be low energy.
I mean,
Put a
listen,
Beatles
I
story
don't know the ins and outs, and I don't even want to argue. If you want to believe Paul McCartney's version of this story, fine. Believe Paul McCartney's version of this story. This is a story that is over 50 years old now, and there are two people intimately involved who are in those rooms alive, and I consider both of them to be two of the most unreliable narrators of the four, and maybe, I would trust George the most. I don't know why. I don't know these people personally, but Paul McCartney, listen, he was a really, really, or I guess is a really, really extraordinarily talented and extraordinarily famous person. And if you're a huge fan, I understand why, but also he's an egomaniac, and he's been kind of rewriting history, and he's the one who gets to, he's alive in 2021, and so he gets to tell his version of stories, and there are fewer people around to correct those stories, and it probably doesn't matter much in the long run, but just having another headline where Paul McCartney gets to kind of tell his version of the Beatles story, it's just I don't know. The whole thing just kind of exhausts me, and I say that as somebody who considers myself still a pretty big Beatles fan, but I find Paul McCartney to be just incredibly exhausting.
I guess I was surprised to hear that he described it as the hardest point in his life, because he's had plenty of massive success as a solo performer. In fact, really all of them went on to have different degrees of success. They all did pretty fine for not being in the Beatles, you know, for one reason or another, in one way or another. And so I guess my thought is maybe it would have been a relief to him. Like, you know, it's a lot of pressure being in the biggest band in the history of the world. John Lennon didn't seem like he was the easiest dude to work with. You're fabulously wealthy, so you're not worried about being able to pay the rent. So you're kind of set. And then he goes on to have like a lot of really big hits, you know, as Paul McCartney or with Wings. So I guess it was weird because I didn't ever think of the idea that he would actually be, and again, this is his version of events.
Exactly.
Which you're saying we got to take with a grain of salt. But I just was surprised to hear that it was upsetting to him, because I would have figured he would just been like, okay, well, that was a fun ride, and now I'll go on to my next adventure. And again, had he totally flopped as a solo artist, and, you know, were he like playing a, you know, Casino or something, then I'd be like, well, yeah, I could see why he sees it as a really sad moment for him. But things turned out pretty okay.
Yeah, but again, I mean, that's him saying this is the toughest moment of my life, or whatever the quote is. He also lost his wife, so I hope that maybe pained that moment. But whatever. Paul McCartney can say what he wants.
And so can you, Andrew, because this is your platform. He has his platform, and you have your platform,
Exactly.
and that's how this works.
I mean, this always puts you in a weird place, because I do have a pretty strong distaste for Paul McCartney as he conducts interviews and.
Excuse me, Sir Paul.
Sir Paul McCartney, and that's just my own bias, and I think that we probably have a lot of listeners who might agree with me and kind of think, yeah, he's really pompous, and other people who are just like, I love the Beatles. We have so many listeners who just love the Beatles, and like I really don't want to take away that love, because like there are things that I love as well, and so like just because I have this beef with him, like I am legitimately somewhat uncomfortable just kind of crapping all over him, but also it's really hard for me not to, because he's just going to continue. He just gives these another explosive Beatles headline from the lips of Sir Paul McCartney himself, and it's like, okay, good. He just gets to he gets to tell his version of the story again, in which case he's always the sweetheart.
What do you think about Sir? Having to use Sir. I don't just mean for Paul McCartney, but for anybody who is, I guess, knighted. Like, because if someone is a doctor and they went to medical school and they are now a doctor, or they got their PhD, so now they have a doctorate, we call them a doctor as well, obviously. To me, it's like, I understand that those people would want to insist that you refer to them as doctor. I mean, it wouldn't be my move were I a doctor, but this is also part of how I will never become a PhD or a medical doctor. I don't have the stick-to-itiveness. But, like, I guess I don't begrudge people who have put in the time, if they're a doctor, being called a doctor. The Sir thing is more weird, because it's like, you got really famous and you're British. And now you're Sir Richard Branson, and now you're Sir Elton John, and now you're Sir Paul McCartney. Like, it just... And I noticed in this article, I think it was from CNN that I was referencing for this. They call him it's the BBC actually, which actually makes more sense because it's like British. But they're calling him Sir Paul McCartney each and every time. Like there's no slipping on that
because it's the BBC. Yeah,
you think it's more?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you're writing for the New York Times, you probably say Sir once, right? And then it's just McCartney after that. So probably. I don't know. I guess, you know what? You've asked me this before. I think the Branson thing came up, and you asked me. And the truth is, and maybe you just need more Beatles headlines to get me worked up again, because I don't really have a strong opinion on it, because it just doesn't. Out of all of the things in the world that could possibly affect me, I just don't think this will ever affect me. Like, maybe if I find myself writing for a publication at some point that says you must use Sir, then I will write Sir, and it probably won't bother me too much. But, like, I'm never going to meet these people. I'm never going to be in a position. Like, you know, when I was in New Hampshire and, you know, that small state is just chock-a-block with, like, former governors, then you can, like, raise the question, should you call the former governor still? And I remember having some awkward conversations around that, trying to figure out the rules for that, and the answer is yes, you call them governor. And that would affect me. But, like, the fact that whether or not I need to call Paul McCartney Sir just doesn't even it'll never affect me one way or the other.
I think I've just always found it to be so kind of silly, because I think that the Royals are silly as a thing.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Because it's not. I mean, I know you're a Windsor head.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Hey, I don't condone the throne. It's my new album.
Condone the throne.
Yeah.
Don't condone the throne could also be a show title.
Yeah, or an album.
But yeah, I feel like for me it's that I I've just always found all of that stuff to be so silly because it's like these are people who have no political power, who are just the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren of people who had a castle that was like strong and hard to get into, and they had some boiling oil, and they had people like serfs like living on like. This is something that goes back so far, but and in the modern era, they're just like they're Kardashians to me. And I don't say that to hate on the Kardashians. By the way, Kim Kardashian did a non-terrible job on SNL over the weekend.
Oh yeah, I saw that she was hosting. I didn't watch.
I watched a couple of the sketches, and I thought she acquitted herself pretty well. But it's like to me, the Royals are just weird social celebrities that have no particular power. They're not in charge of England anymore. And so this obsession around them and this princess obsession and everyone freaking out about Lady Di or Meghan Markle or whomever it is, that's always just been kind of sort of confusing to me. And so to the degree that the knighting of people is part of that world, and it always seems to be happening like Elton John, who's just like sitting arguing with Lil Nas X about if he can have some money for the toy he's riding on in an Uber Eats commercial. It's like, really? Is that like, do you think Sir Galahad would have done that?
Now, you do know that Elton John did have to man the oil pits during the invasion, during the British invasion.
He did, but that was voluntarily because he just was like, that was a thing for him.
Volunteer
What do you
army.
think about those? What do you think about those Lil Nas X? Have you seen the Marshawn Lynch one, by the way?
Yeah, I've seen that. The Lil Nas X Elton John commercials, I actually have a lot to say on them, so I don't know how much you want to get into this. There's actually several of them, and the one you just referenced is by far the worst. They're kind of I think Elton John is on a rocket ship, right? Is that correct? And I think Lil Nas X is on a horse because, it's like Rocket Man
and Old Town Road.
Yeah, exactly. And that one where they're, again, kind of at odds with each other. It's like, oh, you've gotten two more famous people who are kind of at odds with each other for some reason we don't understand. That one is my least favorite. But there is one, and maybe this is just me just being a big sappy guy, but there's another one, and I don't know if it's getting much rotation on TV, if it's a pre-roll, but I watched it online when we were talking about these on After These Messages, and there's one where Lil Nas X is dressed in like just a huge like kind of feathery outfit that Elton John would have worn in the 1970s with the really big glasses, and then Elton John is dressed more like Lil Nas X would be, and they're just chilling. Like there's no antagonism, and it's like I think a 15-seconder, and they're both just sort of saying thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. And to me, the fact that they're both like kind of groundbreaking gay artists and broke ground in different ways, like 50 years apart or whatever it is, it seems like such a tribute to both of them that it actually gets me. Like it actually really, I really love it. I still don't know how you connect it to Uber Eats, but I do love that 15-second little, I don't know, homage, I guess, for lack of a better word. And what I like about it is they're finally getting rid of in that particular moment, this weird false, loggerheads that they make all of these celebrities have. Loggerheads is the wrong word there, but antagonism is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Like, there's no antagonism.
I haven't seen that one, but I can already tell you it would be my favorite of them because of what you described.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how this makes me want to use Uber Eats. And we talked about it going back to the Mark Hamill, Jean-Luc Picard one, which I know is not his real name. His name is Sir Patrick Stewart.
That's
ironic.
That's right.
Does each one of these commercials have to have somebody with Sir? Is it Sir Marshawn Lynch yet? Because the funny thing about the Marshawn Lynch one is they've now flipped the script again, which is that Marshawn Lynch doesn't want them talking about his meal.
It's kind of funny. Again, one of my favorites of them, of a campaign that I actively dislike. That's one of my favorites.
I don't understand how the faux antagonism helps with the selling of the product. Like, I think you can do a lot of those things with those same people. You could do fun stuff and make me more likely to use the product conceptually. And I think when this came up, you and I were both saying we could probably. This is how everybody feels, though. I feel like we could, in an afternoon, if you were like, okay, here's who you got. You got Luke Skywalker and Jean-Luc Picard. Go. I think in an afternoon, you and I could come up with a stronger concept than them just being mad at each other.
Yeah, exactly. The writing is really rough on these.
I feel like there are probably, I don't know, maybe 3 states of being when it comes to your outdoorsiness. There is outdoorsy, and then there's not outdoorsy, and then there's not outdoorsy but aspiring to be outdoorsy, and that's kind of me. Hi, I'm Luke. I'm door number 3. Not outdoorsy, but aspiring to be so. The good news is wherever you are on that little spectrum, backcountry.com has you covered. If you are like somebody who really knows your stuff, if you are like somebody who camps on a glacier most of the year, their gearheads are so expert that even you will be able to get useful advice from them. They can take you through exactly what you should have in your pack for a very technically complicated, challenging outing. Or if you're me and you're like, what is a tent? They will also answer those questions. These gearheads are like former Olympians, 100-plus day a year skiers, seasoned guides. They really know what they're doing, and they will walk you through it. In fact, they've walked me through stuff, and now I know what a tent is, which is awesome. Go to backcountry.com/TBTL and enter the promo code TBTL to get 15% off your first full-priced purchase with some exclusions applying. Right now, you can head over to get your 15% off on any non-sale item at backcountry.com/TBTL. Don't forget to enter the promo code TBTL. That is backcountry.com/TBTL. And don't forget to enter the promo code TBTL. Now, can someone tell me what a campfire is?
Here I go once again with the email. Every week, I hope that it's from a female. Oh, man. It's not from a female.
All right. Do you got a quick email or Vmail? Because we got to get out of here. Then we got to do a no point. We got a busy day, my friend.
I don't have a real quickie here, but I have an email that I can just read, and it won't take
just read half
minute.
of it.
Here's one thing I wanted to say. I don't want to belabor this, especially if you're feeling a time crunch, but I've hesitated to read this because I almost feel like this listener wrote in just to kind of maybe process this anxiety she's feeling in a standoff she's sort of having with her neighbor. And one of the reasons I've held off on reading this as well is because I don't want to turn the email and Vmail segment into just petty grievances, and I feel like that's what I've kind of brought to the show, unfortunately, with my arguments over where to put dog poop bags and people using other people's bins and all these little petty grievances. I think I'm drawn to that stuff. Luke, that I always fantasize about having like an AM call-in talk radio show that is only, I know I did a lot of that, but that is only based on people calling in to gripe, like just gripe about anything, and it was going to be called What's Your Damage? And people just call in, complain, big things, little things, like to the person who cut me off in traffic, whatever. I don't want to turn the emails and Vmails into this, but this is the best email I have today. Do you remember the other day we were talking about a listener having kind of a standoff with their neighbor about like a fence and a tree and the tree hanging over the neighbor's yard and all of this stuff?
Our listener's tree was hanging over into the yard of a neighbor who then cut kind of sloppily the branches of the tree that were over his property, but then put them in our listener's yard waste bin, thus filling it up and infuriating her and you.
And this is a little bit to the side of that, but Jennifer says, I listened to your listener's voicemail and was burning with righteous indignation for your caller. This summer, my neighbors moved in. Within 24 hours, they had a completely organized garage, had power washed the exterior, and fertilized the lawn. I had said goodbye to my 15-year-old dog that weekend and waited to introduce myself because I was a puffy, tear-stained mess. That Monday, as my daughter and I were getting into the car, we saw the wife, and who I presume to be her husband, standing in the yard. We introduced ourselves, and she introduced herself and her arborist. This was not her husband. This was her arborist. Her direct quote was, quote, I hate to be that neighbor, but... The cherry tree in my backyard is leaning on their fence. She tells me that the arborist told her that if they trim only the guilty branch, it will kill my tree, so I need to take the whole thing down. I'm so startled by this, I sort of just nod incredulously. That night, she and her husband stopped by with 2 Post-it notes, one with their phone number and email addresses, one with the arborist's number, and an estimate of nearly $1,000. Again, I'm so taken back. I mumbled something non-committal. The following morning, the husband emails me to follow through and ask what I plan to schedule. As I am traveling that week, I had declined to work on this until I returned. The day after I returned, another follow-up email waiting in my inbox. At this point, I will point out, you've seen Best in Show, right? This reminds me of that intense couple in Best in Show.
Yes, Parker Posey
and her.
And I
right?
forget the name of the guy who plays her husband, but the Busy Bee people.
At this point, I will point out that they have no idea what my situation is. I am recently divorced. I had my hours cut due to the pandemic. I have a child who is chronically ill. And instead of getting to spend time in my backyard and in the garden, I am hiding in the house so they can't hassle me about the GD tree. I let them know, it says GD, I almost swore there though. I let them know that I would like to get an estimate from an arborist and I will work, and the work can wait until I can pay for it. It's not a pressing priority for me due to my life right now. Worded tactfully, the husband appreciates the update. The homeowners association emails about rats in the neighborhood, and the husband takes the opportunity to suggest a cherry tree might bring rats. Where are we on this tree situation, he says. My arborist arrives.
Tree.
The branch can totally be removed without killing the tree. The estimate is for literally half of what they quoted me. I have decided to take the whole damn thing down, keep the wood, and take up making tacky bear sculptures in the backyard on early Saturday mornings. So anyway, it sounds like listener Jennifer is just going to kind of take the whole thing down anyway, but that seems like bullying to me. That's coming in hot as new neighbors, my friend.
Very much so. And also, if I understand this, if it's the listener's tree that's growing into that yard, they have the right to remove it, but it's at their expense.
They can remove the limb.
Yes. Well, that was what I was always told with my annoying ass neighbors.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's where they started.
And their weird holly tree situation was basically like, I mean, I guess if I were the listener, and again, it's hard to know what to do in the situation. Sounds like she's been dealing with a lot, but it's like you could also maybe say, oh, yeah, that's a real shame that tree is growing into your fence. Well, you know what? By all means, either you can take the whole tree down or you could take down that branch. My arborist says it'll be fine. But anyway, feel free to schedule that and pay for it. Because, it's I actually don't like that system because it bothered me when my neighbor's holly tree was growing into my yard and it was my expense to fix it. But this is like the reverse of that. And if these people are going to be so type A, Lord knows they have the $500. They're probably both like high level executives at whatever place they're working because they sound like they're pretty intense.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. Not trying to create more neighbor wars on the show. I'll read a real sweet thing tomorrow, but
be good. Somebody send us a real sweet thing so we can read it tomorrow,
please.
Some tape of your kid being cute would be great.
Hey, you know what I want to go out with here, Luke, is a song off of that CD I was telling you about. Songs That Won the War, Volume 8, Swing Time Indeed. Yes, indeed.
You don't want to hear one off of Where Is My Gas Mask by Winston Churchill?
You send that to me offline, and I will play my favorites for my music for your weekend. There's a song on here by someone who goes by, I assume pronounced Louis Jordan, Louis, Louis Jordan.
Oh, sure, of course.
Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby. I love this song.
It's a jam.
Let's go out with that.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for being part of TBTL. We're going to be back here tomorrow with more imaginary radio for you. Till then, have a great Monday. Be safe. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
I got a gal who's always late. Anytime we have a date, but I love her. Yes, I love her. I'm gonna walk right up to her gate and see if I can get it straight, 'cause I want her. I'm gonna ask her, is you is or is you ain't my baby? The way you're acting lately makes me doubt. You is still my baby, baby. Seems my flame in your heart's done gone out. A woman is a creature that is always.
You want to learn the first rule you'd know if you ever spent a day in your life. You never open your mouth till you know what the shot is.
Power out.